Hello everyone, my name is Dani and today I'm driving the F124 game to show you a hot lap around Canada, where F1 races this week, braking really late into turn 1, rotating the car while slowing down, focusing on this crucial exit for this short, flat-out section of the track, absolutely sending through the curbs of the last chicane of the first sector, getting close to the wall on the exit, flat out right-hander to finish it off. A tricky braking, we mount the entry curves and then keep the car absolutely flat for this exit, open up the DRS for the first time this lap, getting close to the wall on the entry of the last chicane of the second sector. Really easy to run right here and invalidate the lap. There is a way around the bollard to return safely. Hard braking zone into the hairpin, one of the best overtaking opportunities as it's the biggest braking zone. Now comes the longest straight. Obviously exit was important. We open up DRS once again, but if you cannot pass on the straight, don't send it into the chicane because this is the fastest direction change on the track. Really easy to invalidate lap time, really easy to hit the wall of champions. I tapped it a little bit. I hope I will be champion. We finished the hectic lap over 108.112 around this awesome classic track. I will do a slow lap now to show you how you can gain time. Starting the lap, obviously it's really important to have a good exit. Open up the DRS as soon as possible and choose a line where you don't really need to turn your wheel anymore. Arriving in the turn 1, brake straight line really late. Don't go over the middle of the track to prepare this ever-going long right-hander, straightening out the wheel as soon as possible, being back on the power. This is an uphill section, really important. Then we want to cut as much as legally possible of this entry. This was too much that I just did. You need to keep at least some part of your car within the white lines because that will open up the best exit for us. Keep the tightest line possible and brake on the right side of this track. Then late apex, mounting the curb and straightening out the wheel as soon as possible to be back on full power. And be careful, there is a DRS activation zone right away. You can gain crucial hundreds of a second by not missing it. A very tricky wall, don't hit it, your wheel will absolutely fall off. You can mount these curbs, not the highest part of it, just the most of it, while keeping the car on track, and then obviously back on power as soon as possible because all these exits are really important. Canada is a typical track where you need to brake late, but it's still a slow in, fast out circuit. Every single chicane has a crucial exit. In the hairpin, we just keep it tight. Make sure to use all the track on the outside, but you don't need to complete extra meters just for the sake of completing extra meters. If you are back on power, take the shortest line possible through the straight, and then comes the chicane. Make sure to find your braking point on the outside, but then start to look for the apex as soon as possible so you can have a precise cut. You can take that white and red curb underneath your car, getting close to the wall of champions. Obviously try not to hit it, and basically that's the way to do a lap around Canada. Obviously minimum speeds are extra important to keep it high. These are Formula cars. The more speed you have, the more downforce you will have. And slow in, fast out. Remember that if you are paying attention to your delta, you will see how much you can gain with an awesome exit compared to a later braking than what it should be done. So I just want to say, you can always gain more with an awesome exit than braking a little bit later, or actually too late. We are back in the garage and I'm going to talk you through the setup page a little bit. It's a relatively high downforce circuit. There is a long straight, so you need to make a compromise, especially for the race. And if you are driving in a league or in a championship with park permit regulations, and let's say you are not the best qualifier, then you need to account that you will need to be able to overtake. But the tire wear is crucial, and the higher the downforce you have and the less slip you have over these tricky curbs, these tricky exits, the more you can preserve those rear tires. And then comes the differential. You need to rotate while you're braking a lot. So off-throttle differential is at the moment minimum, which means that the rear axle, while you are not on the power, is not locked together, it's quite open, it can rotate at different speeds, and it makes the car turn better because the inside tires need to complete less distance compared to the outside tires, and if you force them to make the same distance, then the car gets a little bit stabilized. But if you open up this system, then the car gets a little bit loose but better in terms of rotation. Road cars basically have not connected differentials for this reason, so your parking is easy. Engine braking, it's something that you can play with to your own preference, how much you want the rear bias braking, especially when shifting down the gears. Differential on throttle is the same as the off throttle, but it has more limitations. If you go too low, you will spin your inside tires while you're turning and accelerating under a load. So you just need to find the perfect balance for yourself. The higher you put this value, the more stability and natural understeer you will have when accelerating. The lower you put it, the more the car will rotate, but also there is a risk that at some point the inside tires will lose grip. And there comes the cambers. Those usually make your car a little bit more stable and controllable into lower speed corners, more responsive into higher speed corners. So in Canada we use a bit those. So far in the F1 game, the maximum amount of camber, or you can call it the minimum, but it's the maximum value, if you look at the absolute degree, is what seems to be the best so far. And then the suspension, usual way. Front suspension very stiff. We want a good anti-dive effect on the braking, so the aero platform and the car stays relatively stable. But the rear suspension, if it's softer, it's a lot better in terms of traction, accelerating out of low speed. The car leans back a little bit, has all the grip, absorbs the bumps and the curbs better when back on the power, and it's really important for stability. Anti-roll bar, you can play with it a little bit. All in all, the higher you push the rear roll bar, the less the car rolls, so the more rotation you will have on the exits of the corners most of the time. The higher you put the front roll bar, the even more stability you will have on the entry of the turns. The ride height is just all about keeping it to the optimal window. It cannot be too low to bottom out, but it cannot be too high to lose downforce. And then the brake pressure, the brake bias, it varies from turn to turn, but I would recommend you the range from 52 to about 55. You should go more front biased on harder braking, as the car leans forward and then the rear tires can lose a bit more grip, and you don't want to lock the rear tires because you can easily enter a spin. This is what you need to know about the setups in Canada. It's very early within the game. I've only been playing it for like a week, so I'm sure our advices will improve a little bit, but it's a great time to experiment and gain a bit of ground on your main competitors and rivals, even if it's just a friendly race. Let's win.